Nvidia stock had another great day today with the stock up over 4%. Today we're going to discuss some great news coming in from Microsoft, OpenAI, and Foxconn. More importantly, some other great news would be if you hit the thumbs up and subscribe button and check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Check everything out on the pinned comment. All jokes aside, in today's episode, we are going to cover a lot of great news impacting the overall stock and my final thoughts. So let's get started.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is Microsoft announced today that they are the first cloud running Nvidia's Blackwell system with the GB200 powered AI server. So this is pretty exciting. We're starting to see the Grace Blackwell coming out into the market right now. The great thing about this is if Microsoft has a Grace Blackwell 200 chip system already running, then that means that they've already paid for it. So we should probably be getting some form of revenue from the Blackwell platform starting Q3, right? So, I mean, that's just my overall thinking right now, because we know their Q3 ends, I believe, at the end of October, because Q4 is November, December, and the end of January. Yes, so any system right now coming out from the Blackwell platform would have to be for this upcoming Q3 of Nvidia's fiscal year. So that again can showcase that we're going to start to get revenue maybe a little bit earlier than expected. Now, because we did expect a nice amount of revenue coming in mainly in Q4, but like I mentioned, Q4 for Nvidia is November, December, and January. Outside of Microsoft, we also had another big AI player coming in showcasing their Blackwell platform. So OpenAI did get the first engineering builds of the DGX B200 to their office, and they do mention one of the first engineering builds. So again, this is just very early on, and we can see this is different, right? For Microsoft got the Grace Blackwell 200, OpenAI got the B200. Just what we've been hearing, the Grace Blackwell is going to be something that's going to be used mainly by these big cloud server providers, and like the B200 is going to be mainly used by kind of these independent companies that don't run kind of a huge clouding data center. So here we can kind of see some information about the Blackwell 200. The B200 is reportedly about 15x larger than in inference versus the DGX H100, and about 3 times faster in forms of training. And this is the one that doesn't come with an Nvidia CPU. This is x86 CPU, and the DGX B200 comes with Intel Xeon Platinum 8570 processor. So obviously both of these just showcase very early on that at least Q3 of this year is going to start to have some form of Blackwell revenue for Nvidia, which is very bullish in my opinion, as many were expecting us to really start to get revenue in Q4. So a great start there. Now, another interesting news coming here with Microsoft and OpenAI is there are reports coming out from the information that OpenAI leaders say Microsoft isn't moving fast enough to supply servers. And I think this is very important for investors to know, especially for Nvidia investors, is historically, I think when we've been thinking of OpenAI and Microsoft, we've been kind of thinking them as one entity, one customer, where OpenAI is kind of using mainly Microsoft computational power to develop its own solutions thanks to the partnerships that they have. But based on that article, it seems like we should really be thinking as Microsoft and OpenAI as two individual entities and two individual customers. And we can see with the overall post that I mentioned today, with one receiving the Grace Blackwell 200 and the other one receiving a DGX B200, I think it's great to really understand that they are two different entities and two big customers of Nvidia. Remember, OpenAI just announced a huge funding of over $6.6 billion, if I remember correctly, and that's going to be used on computational power for sure and data center solutions. So I think, in my opinion, this is very great news for the overall stock. Now, we also do have some other great news from Foxconn, and Foxconn is one of the biggest AI server makers in the world. I do believe they are the biggest AI server makers in the world, and they did recently announce that they are going to be building an AI server facility here in North America, in Mexico, which is pretty important because, right, it seems like, hey, look, we're trying to show our customers that we're not going to be reliant only in the Asia region. So it seems like they're bringing it here to Mexico. Some great things about this is, in a recent Bloomberg report, it does show that the chairman of Foxconn mentions that the demand for the Grace Blackwell system is exceeding initial expectations and is pretty much crazy, and that's why they have to invest in a huge plant in Mexico to be able to kind of keep up with capacity as well. So again, this is kind of another outside source outside of Nvidia. Jensen pretty much saying that, hey, look, the demand for Blackwell is super strong. We're getting it from another angle, that that demand is extremely crazy. And I also want to say, in my opinion, for an Asian entity to kind of invest outside of the Asia market and here in North America, even though it's in Mexico, which has probably a lot cheaper labor rates than United States, it kind of showcases that, hey, look, there's huge demand for this, and they want to kind of reduce their reliance within a certain market. So overall, that's still, in my opinion, bullish for Nvidia as well. Now, another kind of topic I want to take a closer look at is there are reports that Morgan Stanley recently sent out an investment note on Nvidia, and previously we've heard that Morgan Stanley believes that this company is expected to do roughly $5 to $10 billion in Blackwell revenue for Q4 of 2024. But now they kind of expanded that they believe for the first quarter of 2025 that Nvidia can produce roughly 700 to 800,000 units of Blackwell GPUs, which is about 3 times more than what they expect Nvidia to do in Q4 of 2024. So we can see a huge growth in Blackwell chips as they ramp up. And what's very important about this is reportedly the B200 chip is priced at 60 to 70% premium to the H200 chip. So you can see a huge ramp up in Blackwell. Is going to be a nice huge ramp up in overall revenue as well. Obviously, as you are ramping up the Blackwell, there are going to be reductions of the Hopper platform, and that perfectly makes sense, right? You need to build up some capacity, and you need to use some of the previous capacity that you might have to build that new platform that you are making. But overall, if those numbers are true, then that is going to be very bullish for the overall stock. Now, another news here, this is more rumors, but this is something I've talked about in the past, where we keep getting rumors that Nvidia is going to be in the CPU market one way or another, maybe through a partnership, maybe through themselves. But there are more reports that Nvidia and MediaTek collaborate on 3 nanometer AI PC CPU and is ready for tape out this month. If that is true, like I mentioned in yesterday's episode, I believe this is something that we're gonna hear about in the CES event in about 3-4 months from now. So that's pretty much what I have for Nvidia in forms of stock price. I think the market is really excited right now with obviously rate cuts, but obviously the demand for Blackwell is insane, and it does seem like Blackwell is coming maybe a little bit earlier than expected in forms of revenue. Many were expecting the revenue coming in Q4, which starts in November, but we're starting to see it here in October, which is really well. Another really big. The other thing is we are coming with earnings in the next few weeks, and I think investors might be bullish that big tech is going to continue to say that they're investing heavily in AI infrastructure. So my overall thoughts for Nvidia, like I've mentioned in the past, even though we are getting a lot of great price actions, I personally wouldn't be buying at these levels big positions, but remember, Nvidia is already my number 1 position, so I might have that bias of, hey, look, I don't want to increase it by too much and ruin my dollar cost averaging. For me, these levels are more kind of very small dollar cost averaging, not big buying opportunities. I've talked about it in the past where, I talked about Nvidia, how I was bullish in August when this stock was below 100, and very similar in early September September when the stock was below 105. And I mentioned, to me, those are great buying opportunities, and I'm very happy I did those videos. To me right now, it's not that this stock can't go higher, but I personally wouldn't be buying a bulk load right now just because I understand my own risk tolerance. And again, my risk tolerance might be different for yours, but that's just my overall opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.